Hello, I am Kate with Kate's Paper Creations. Welcome to this week's Casing the Catalog video and blog. I'm glad you've joined me today. I'm excited to start showing products and projects that are coming up soon in the new, I don't know if they call it the January-June mini catalog. So this is the picture of the front of the catalog. I'm not allowed to actually show you the pages yet, but this is the front of the catalog, and it is full of some really awesome products and suites and bundles and projects. And so I'm going to be casing one of those. I took part in the On Stage at Home event for demonstrators a while back. I think it was in November. And we made some cards there, and we were allowed, because we paid to be a part of that, we were allowed to get some different products from that to make some projects while we were doing the event. And so Dragonfly Garden, now this cover in here is my own homemade cover. As you know, when I get my stamp sets, I put them on a shelf, and they're alphabetized up there so that I can pull them off the shelf, and then I make a homemade catalog with the same picture. And so when I'm looking for something to make cards, a specific design or a specific sentiment or something like that, I can look through my homemade catalog and say, oh, that one's in Dragonfly Garden. Okay, and then I go up to my shelf, and there it is, and I pull it off, and I've got everything I need. So that just all of that for an explanation, so you understand why this is pink. Because what I've decided to do also, I've been doing that particular thing for a long time, but what I've decided to do differently this time around is that with each new catalog, the colors will be different. So on my shelf, I will know immediately which ones are the current newest products on my shelf, so that I can make sure that I'm grabbing those and using them. And so this particular catalog is going to have a pink binder, a pink spine on the seam, and a pink top. So I keep the originals in here behind, so that if I do ever pass these along, they will go back to the original. But this is how I do it. Okay. So we were allowed to get the Dragonfly Garden bundle, and it came with the Dragonfly Garden stamp set. It came with the Dragonfly Punch, which has 2 different sizes of dragonfly. It came with, I forget the name of it. Let me see what I've got here. It is called Dandy Garden 6x6 Designer Series papers, and there's some really cute papers in here. Just absolutely gorgeous. And the braided linen twine or thread or whatever you want to call it. It's Mossy Meadow. Okay. And what else? Oh, and it also came with some little tiny ladybug trinkets and stuff, which I don't have handy right now, but you'll get to see them probably with some future projects. So I've copied a card that is in the catalog, so you'll get to see one of the cards that's been cased from the catalog. Okay, and this is the card. I can't show you the page, but I can tell you what page it is on when you get it, and it will be found on page 24 of your catalog when you have it in your hot little hands. And you may have it. I mean, we've ordered them and been passing them out so we can build wish lists, and so all of my customers have theirs, and so you probably have yours as well. So it's on page 24, and you can look it up and find this card there. Now, it won't be an exact replication, because part of this is also, there is a suite that's involved, and Dandy Garden Suite. And in that is another stamp set called Garden Wishes, and it's got a bundle with it. And so there's a couple of little elements that came from that stamp set, and I don't have that one yet. So I've substituted, and you'll see how I did that. So this is the card we're going to make. Let me show you how we're going to do that. Actually quite super simple. Starting with a Whisper White Thick base card. 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, that standard A2 greeting card size. It is kind of fun to make some various different folds and sizes, but for today, that's what you get. Then the first layer is some of that Dandy Garden DSP, and it is the same size as the front of the card. So it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And we are just going to attach it flat to the front of the card, just like this. And I am lining it up with the opening side of the card like that. You know, I don't know about you, but my cuts are never very, well, not never, but very seldom perfect, right? So I just line it up with the front edge of the card, the opening edge of the card, because that's the one that's going to be the most noticeable. And then I'm going to lay it down. And then if it's a little bit long on the back side, I can trim it off. But there we go. That's the base of the card. Now we are going to get out this piece of Whisper White regular, and it is 2 1/2 by 4 3/4, and we are going to stamp it with this design in Memento Black. And we're going to stay to the left edge of it. We don't want it centered. So I'm going to do it to the left side, centered from top to bottom pretty much, but side to side, I'm going to stay to the left side, just like that. And there's that design. Let me clean that up. I use baby wipes when I'm working like this, and I'm just going to clean that up. Set that aside. And then we're going to color it, and I will share with you the colors. I used blends, but you know, there are so many different ways to color. You can color with the regular standard markers. You could color with a blending pen and the ink pads. You could color with colored pencils, but today I am using blends pens. And I went first with the narrow end of Old Olive Light, and I colored the leaves. So I hope all of you had an absolutely wonderful Thanksgiving. I took some time off. I got all my videos made for all of November and up until yesterday of December, up until the 10th of December. And so I had some time to do other things, and we had our Thanksgiving with our kids and all of that, and it was a good time. It was a good time. We were able to safely enjoy one another because we've been together. We know we're safe with each other, and but we didn't fix the traditional turkey. This year I fixed a salmon recipe. We had salmon. We have some friends of ours who are commercial fishermen, and we're on their list to get salmon from them each year when they get it all freshly caught. So it's all wild caught, flash frozen, packaged and flash frozen, and it's just absolutely the most delicious salmon you've ever had. So we made salmon for Thanksgiving. And I typically, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, make candied yams. I have a special recipe I make, and my family just loves them, and I didn't make them this time, and so there were some whining at the table, you know, wanting Nana's candied yams, and Nana didn't make candied yams. I broke with tradition. How dare I do such a thing, right? Oh, I forgot. You can see here, Tuxedo Memento Black. Typically, it's great for stamping and coloring because it dries permanent. But on this Whisper White cardstock, it takes a few minutes to dry. And I seem to always forget that. And not minutes, but, you know, about a minute or so to dry. And I seem to always forget that. And then I end up with smears. See how I did that? So as disappointing as that is, I am going to start over, and because I don't see myself repairing that. So I am going to get out my Memento Black again, and I am going to stamp that image on a fresh piece. So let me get some cardstock here. And as I told you, it was 2.5, and I think this piece will fit that bill. Yep, by 4 3/4. So let's do the 4 3/4. And the 2.5. And like I've said before, I don't have that. I don't have the expensive software and everything that lets you edit out and do all that. I just don't have it. So, so here we are. You get to watch me make mistakes, and you get to watch me fix them. And in this particular case, I'm going to have to just restamp. I should have stamped this ahead of time and let it dry so that you wouldn't have had to listen to me banter about nonsense stuff from Thanksgiving and while I was coloring. But this is the reality of designing cards. Sometimes we will, those of us that are doing this and making these videos, we will spend a lot of time just getting everything ready. Okay, so I've stamped the image from the stamp set with the Memento Black, Tuxedo Black ink, and I've let it dry for a little bit because on this Whisper White cardstock, it needs to dry a little while or it will smear when you're working with it. And I've started the coloring already with the Old Olive Light Blends pen, and I've colored the leaves and that with that. And now I'm going to use the Magenta Madness Light, and I'm using the fine tip for all of this coloring today because this is a small area. And I'm going to color these flowers with the Magenta Madness just for that pop of color. It's just gorgeous. This is such a pretty color. It's one of the in colors that's good with us for 2 years. So for 2021, and so that's really nice. And so it goes from 2020 to 2021 and 2022, and then it'll get replaced. But for now, it brings us this beautiful bright pink color. It just practically glows. It's so bright. Took some getting used to it at first, but I do like the color. So that's those flowers. Then I used the Misty Moonlight Light, and I colored these flowers with it. I'm just, again, using the thin-tipped end and just kind of working the color into that flower. And this is similar. So I'm going to do this flower that way. And this one. And this one. Okay, that's those three. Oh, here's another one right over here. I'm going to do this one the same. And I'm kind of daubing that in there. I'm not trying to be too particular. And then I used the Light Blackberry Bliss, and I did these stems with it, and I'm just catching the petals of the flowers. This is a really good combination with that Magenta Madness. They look good together. Might have to do some more cards with that coloring. And these little petals are just so tiny. The lighter the touch, the easier it is to control. So it's just a matter of just barely touching the paper with the tip of that pen to get those petals colored. And you don't have to be too awfully particular about going outside the lines. It's not going to hurt the look if it does just a little bit. But I do want the white to be colored, so kind of going back and doing just some little touch-ups. And one there. That looks pretty good. So that's those two stems. And then the final stems I did with Calypso Coral Light. And these ones are just these, and they're just a little cluster. And so I'm just coloring around the cluster. And again, I'm not trying to like stay within lines or anything. I'm just not got a problem with it kind of showing up outside of the lines. And there's all our flowers all colored. Oh, and then I used this also in the centers up here. I just added the Calypso Coral Light to the centers of the flowers. So there's our flowers all ready to go. Now I've already got the front put on the card. Again, this was the Dandy Garden DSP cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 just to cover the front of the card. And I am going to put this down. I'm doing all of these just flat. I'm not raising any of it up. You could do that, but I've chosen not to do that today. And this is going to go on about 1/2 inch from the left closed side of the card, and then evenly spaced from top to bottom. And put that on there like that. That coloring is just gorgeous. Then this is another piece, this piece coming in here. This is another piece of the Dandy Garden Designer Series paper. This color is Calypso Coral. And I'm just putting that piece on here. And it's going to line up with the edge of the card to the open edge of the card and come across like this. Just like that. And then this is a piece of the Misty Moonlight, and it is, I'm going to have to remeasure because I've forgotten. It is 3 inches by 3/4. So it's 3/4 wide, excuse me, by 3 inches long. Now I don't need the sentiments that are in the Dragonfly garden, so I pulled out hand-drawn blooms, and I'm going to be stamping Happy Birthday from that. And I'm using this stamp. It has this cute little wave to it, and I'm going to stamp that with Versamark, and it's going to get embossed with white so that it'll stand out. So I'm just going to get out my white embossing powder, and I'm going to turn on that heat tool and let it start preheating while I stamp. So sorry for the noise. And I'm just going to turn that stamp because I only want the Happy Birthday part. I'm going to stamp it, ink it I should say, and I'm going to get my embossing buddy and make sure that I don't get anything where I don't want it. And I'm going to stamp that on here. And we'll put some embossing powder on it. And then I hold on to those with, when it's small like that, I don't really care to cook my fingers. So I am going to hold on to that with a pair of hemostats that I have. Or with a hemostat, I should say. And then I will heat emboss that. Speak up a little louder so you can hear me over the... There we go. All embossed, ready to go. Put that away. And I am going to also put this on just flat. And it's going to come down about halfway and come out just a little bit past the end, as you can see there, just like that. And then I've already made the bow, if I can find it. Oh, here it is. I've already made the bow. That's using that braided linen trim in the Mossy Meadow. Isn't that a beautiful color? And I'm just going to use a glue dot and attach that bow. Now there's a slight embellishment on your catalog page. You'll see there's another embellishment coming up. I'll get to that in just a second. They put a bumblebee on this picture, and I'm looking for my bumblebee that I cut out, and I'm not finding it. So I'm going to have to cut out another one, and that's okay. Let me show you what I did. The other stamp set that goes with this suite has a bumblebee stamp, and I'm sure that's what they used when they made this particular card for the catalog, but I don't have that. As I said, I don't have that yet. So this paper is in the Designer Series paper pack, the Dandy Garden paper pack, and I decided that I would just cut out one of these bumblebees and use it instead. So that's what I'm going to do. I had one cut out already, so you wouldn't have to watch me do fussy cutting. But somehow in my interruptions, because partway through this video, somebody called me on the telephone and I had to stop and go take care of it. And then I came back and I finished it, and then I've done some editing to splice it all together. And somehow in the midst of all of that, I managed to misplace the bumblebee, which is easy to do because he's just a tiny little thing. So that's why I'm having to cut one out, and you're having to watch me do that. Now, when you do that with the stamp, it's going to be stamped with the black ink onto probably white cardstock, and then you can color it however you want. This little guy is already colored, of course, and his wings are kind of a dark gray. I think it's the Misty Moonlight, and it just looks gray. I didn't want his wings to be that dark looking, and so as I'm making do, I got out my white chalk marker, and I just lightly went over the wings with that white chalk marker to make them a little bit lighter, because I didn't want them to be that dark. But once I get the stamp set, it'll all be good. Okay, then I am actually, this is the one piece that's going to get popped up. So it's getting a mini glue, a mini dimensional. And it's just going to look like he's flying up above the flowers here. And there is the card all complete. Two of them side by side. There they are. So I hope you enjoyed today's Casing the Catalog. I hope it entices you to consider this stamp set. There'll be some more coming. My next video is going to be Simply Saturday. So we're going to be looking at making a simple card using this same stamp set. And we'll see what comes from that. Hope you'll stay tuned and subscribe to my blog so you can enjoy future videos. Thank you.